Clumsily rushing after Matt, Jim calls out to him, "Wait, Jim, calm down." In a blind fury, Jim ignores Matt and runs into a security office. When he arrives, Jim looks around frantically. "Sarah? Sarah, I know you're in here. Come out. I know you locked us in the party room. You crossed the line with that one. Sarah? Sarah?" Matt staggers into the room, out of breath from sprinting. "Hey, where's Sarah?" Matt also looks around, darting his eyes around the room. Now they've both calmed down. They notice that the desk chair Sarah was sitting on has been knocked over. "Come on, Sarah. Come out. This isn't funny anymore." Jim struggles to get his words out as a sense of foreboding begins to set into his chest. Matt checks the large vents at the side of the security office, but discovers nothing noteworthy. Meanwhile, Jim checks under the desk and around the room. "Maybe she left the building or went to get a snack from the kitchen," Matt asks. "No, Sarah hates the food here, and she wouldn't just up and leave, not even for a prank." Both men sigh and think for a second, looking around the room and back at each other a few times. "Right, here's the plan. I'll check the front of the building and you check the back end, alright?" Matt nods in agreement. Jim begins making his way down the central hallway to the north hallway, while Matt heads to the west party room. After an extensive search, Matt finds nothing of interest in the west party room. Meanwhile, Jim checks both the male and female bathrooms, finding nothing and no one. Matt finds himself outside Pry's corner. He slowly opens the door and enters the room. The room is dark and musty. He turns on the light and takes a quick scan of the room. Balloons, toys, plushes based on the animatronics, and a bunch of posters and other merchandise clutter the room. There's not a lot of space in the room, especially with a really large gift box with a hand crank plopped a few inches from the wall. Matt looks behind the counter but doesn't see any sign of Sarah. He then tries to open the large gift box, but to no avail. "Oh, come on, do I really have to crank this thing to open it, or is it just stuck?" Matt gives the lid of the box another couple of good tugs, but it doesn't budge. He then tries a hand crank, but that won't budge either. I guess it just doesn't work. No way she could hide in there if it's as stuck as it is. Matt leaves the room and notices Jim out of the corner of his eye, so he turns to face him. "Any luck yet?" Jim turns to face Matt while chewing on a slice of old pizza, and then he slowly shakes his head. Matt sighs at Jim. "Stop snacking and keep looking. She's got to be hiding in here somewhere." Jim swallows his old and cold pizza, then takes off towards the entrance. Jim checks around, hoping that Sarah would be behind the receptionist desk like she usually is in the morning, but she's still nowhere to be seen. "Hey Matt, I've got this area covered. You go down to Kids Cove and check out parts and services." Matt sighs and heads south towards Kids Cove. Jim gets down onto his knees and checks under all the tables in the main dining area, but Sarah doesn't seem to be hiding under the chairs and tables. With no luck so far, Jim checks all the arcade machines in the game area. "Okay, Jim, this is not the time to be playing arcade games. You've got to keep searching for Sarah." Jim thinks to himself over and over again while he looks around. He finds nothing of note apart from a new arcade cabinet he might try out next week called Fruity Maze. Jim backtracks his way to the dining area and decides to check the office belonging to his boss, but the door is locked. "I guess she can't be in there, only the boss has keys to that room." Jim looks up at the main stage and thinks to himself for a second. Surely not. Surely she won't be hiding backstage, right? Steadily, Jim climbs the steps up to the main stage, trying to stay out of the way of the animatronics. He's never been afraid of them, but given the circumstances, he's concerned that there's some larger prank at play here. Matt finds himself walking down a hallway full of crude children's drawings, plastered onto the walls. He glances around at them while walking, trying to not take note of how uncanny some of the drawings feel to him. Matt turns to face the door to parts and services, and goes to open it, but is stopped by a sudden scream coming from the main dining room. In a panic, Matt turns tail and runs down the hallway back into the dining room, looking around for the source of the scream. Jim? Sarah? You there? After a few seconds of panic, a muffled voice coming from behind the main stage curtains can be heard. I'm here. Sorry, I turned the light on and Mangle... The voice of Jim trailed off. You good though? Matt shouted to Jim. Yeah, I'm gonna check around backstage. Matt begins thinking to himself, if Mangle is backstage, then why isn't it in Kids Cove where it belongs? Instead of going to Parts and Services, Matt decides to go back and check out Kids Cove. Matt arrives in utter confusion. There's nothing in Kids Cove at all. All the decorations, the ball pit, the tables, the arts and crafts supplies. Everything he had seen during his introduction to the establishment is just gone. The only thing left is a small stage where he was told Mangle used to be on show before it became The Mangle. Matt checks behind the curtain of the small stage and finds absolutely nothing apart from a strange metal plate covering part of the wall. Thinking nothing of it, Matt steps down from the stage and heads back to Parts and Services, the last place that hasn't been checked yet. When Matt arrives at the door, he notices Jim jogging down the hallway to catch up with him. Anything yet? Jim gasps for another breath. No, nothing. What's going on with Kids Cove? Everything's gone. Jim catches his breath before responding. I'm not sure. They just started taking stuff out the other day. I've not been told anything. Sarah might know, if we find her. Both men look at each other and nod to each other. Matt slowly opens the door to Parts and Services and quickly shuts the door. Why did you close it? Jim asks in confusion. Matt turns to Jim with a sickly green complexion. Matt, what's wrong? What did you see in there? Matt shuffles Jim to one side and glances back at the door before explaining to Jim what he saw. Matt whispers, He's in there. Jim lowers his voice to just above a whisper. Who? The boss? Matt glances back at the door once again and turns back to Jim and whispers again. Balloon Boy. Not buying it, Jim sighs and goes towards the door with Matt whispering to him, asking him to not open the door. Jim swings open the door to the Parts and Services room and there is no Balloon Boy in sight. No Balloon Boy. Dumbfounded, Matt shuffles to the door and peeks inside, looking around for Balloon Boy. See, it's just some old animatronics, no Balloon Boy, no Sarah. Stinks something awful though. Matt enters the room and turns the light on to get a better look at the room. There's tools lying around, a couple of workbenches, and a bunch of spare animatronic parts. On the far side of the room, there's an old Freddy Fazbear suit slumped against the wall. It looks damp. Curious, Matt walks over to the old suit and cautiously lifts up its head to see if Sarah is hiding inside. There is a sudden popping sound as the head is lifted that startles both Matt and Jim. Matt quickly throws the head to the other side of the room. Matt calms his nerves and sticks his hand inside the suit to pull out the remains of a pink balloon, covered in a slimy substance. Ugh, this is disgusting. Not sure what it is, but I don't want this stuff on my hands. Matt drops the pop balloon and rushes for the nearest sink. Jim wanders out of the Parts and Services and returns to the security office. Moments later, Matt returns to the security office with Sarah's handbag. I guess you really did leave then. Jim checks his watch. It's nearly 1 p.m. The afternoon shift should be here soon. Matt looks around the room again. Kind of rude for her to not even leave us a note or let us know she was going to take off. Jim points towards Sarah's handbag. Pass it here. Matt throws the handbag over to Jim and he barely manages to catch it. Jim opens up the bag and starts rummaging through it. Purse, deodorant, hairbrush, makeup. Oh wait, what's this? Jim pulls out a thick book and begins to examine it. Is this her diary or something? No author, no title, just a fancy looking book. Matt looms over Jim's shoulder. Well, let's have a look. No light she'll know, right? Jim opens the book and flicks through some of the pages. The book appears blank until they land on one particular page that has a diary entry. Wait, this thing is dated 2018? Is this supposed to be a story or a diary? It's not even in Sarah's handwriting. Jim skips through a few more pages to see a doodle of a balloon with the words "Free Balloons" strewn across the page. I guess she really likes Balloon Boy. Kinda creepy. Matt says, cringing a little bit. Jim flicks through a few more pages and sees a sketch of a woman screaming on one of the pages. Whoa, I didn't peg her for an artist. That's actually really cool. Looks like her too. Jim sighs. Well, that was a waste of time. Jim puts the book back inside the handbag, then checks his watch. Right, it's time for us to clock out. Come on, Matt. Matt and Jim head to the entrance and leave Sarah's handbag in the lost and found behind the receptionist counter. Well, that was a hectic first day. Matt sighs to Jim. You're telling me I might have to go work somewhere else? This place is starting to freak me out. Jim and Matt leave the restaurant and lock the main doors behind them. Jim walks off down a side path, not even bothering with a simple see you tomorrow. So Matt gets into his car and drives home. On the drive home, Matt begins to feel uneasy for seemingly no reason. The radio suddenly turns on and screeches several inaudible words, while Matt sees flashes of balloons in his mind. In a panic, Matt slams the brakes on his car and the radio stops dead. Matt takes a few seconds to calm his nerves before continuing to drive home. Ugh, I never want to see another balloon ever again.